So give me a second. We'll gather up some stuff right here. I'll create a highlight. We'll start the thing like now, and we'll get that stuff, and I'll save that as unlisted. Okay, and cool. And I'll have to grab that in a minute. So welcome to the post show, everybody. Those of you that are popping in. And has it been many years, Molly? It's hard to like. Hello. Tom, the buzzing during the show was driving me a bit batty, but I managed to master up. You guys know I soldier through the technical aspects of the show quite often, and I've had worse. At least we didn't have dropouts in that regard, and Chicago could hear me clearly. That's all that mattered, and I'm sorry we couldn't do calls. That would have been nice this week. Hopefully we will next week, because obviously there's a ton to talk about. I will say that had I had some women call in, the callers that that Lady B mentioned were all men, and I was like, to bend over backwards and deal with the buzz and all that stuff, to just have 3 dudes call in on a day like today wouldn't be helpful. So there you go. I'm curious, chat room, what your feelings were watching all this. I know that a lot of people, had an emotional reaction. There were, people watching Dr. Ford's testimony that were tearing up during it. I had conversations with my mom and my girlfriend and other female friends, some of whom had similar situations to what Dr. Ford went through, some of whom had, experiences, worse than Dr. Ford's, some that had, I will say, how do I put this, had circumstances that were not as bad as Dr. Ford's, but had felt for a long time that what had happened to him was worse than Dr. Ford's, and now feel bad for claiming that what had happened to them was on the same scale as what had happened to her and others. There's a lot of emotion going on in all this, is what I'm saying. So, tears then rage continued until the next day. I understand Andrew said second, to name a few. Driftless, yes. I believe her. End of story. Yeah. In my mind, Kavanaugh's anger was just calculating. It's the only reaction he thought might convince people of his testimony. I don't believe him at all. I agree. I think it was. I do think he was genuinely angry, but I think it was fear-based anger. That's the vibe I got. Hence the crying. I mean, it's a bad situation, and to be in the abstract, and this is how the Republicans are working this angle. In the abstract, to be accused of a crime you are not guilty of is a horrible thing. When there are people being released from jail who were not guilty of the crimes that they were convicted for, that is a time they will never get back. Their lives have been forever changed. There was a black man who was released maybe a month ago, who'd been in jail for 26 years for a rape he did not commit. Think of him being on trial today, same trial, and this man is innocent. Think of him being on trial today with and had it been a social media, worthy case where people were aware of it, knowing that he is innocent, knowing that he was found innocent, and think what the tweets would be about left and right, because on the one, yeah, John, it very well may be the mosquitoes. They are huge. They're like helicopters. There's clearly an aspect of this that does require awareness. The idea, some of the conversation about how believe all women a long time ago used to believe all white women, and that believe all white women was a way to lynch black men, because a woman who had had consensual sex, who was found to have had consensual sex with a black man in certain areas of the world, which I'm not currently too far from, if it was found out to be true, she was in danger, so she would claim rape, for example. Those kind of things. That's heavy duty stuff. And so the believe all women thing, wording wise, is great branding. What I think it really will boil down to ultimately is listen to all accusers. They should be allowed to say, they should be allowed to be heard. And unfortunately, that's that's the missing link in all of this, is that they are not. So that's why it's a maturation process. So that's a factor. Carrie Maxwell, I like believe women. I do too. I mean, I think it gets the message across. It doesn't help when Asia Argento is one of those women, is what I'm saying. And when the Anthony Rapps of the world are not women. So therefore the belief survivors, but also a person is a survivor if it actually happened. A false accuser is not a survivor. So the only thing a court and a circumstance can do is listen to accusers. And I don't have a problem with, I'm just splitting hairs for the language right now across the board, but what they are using, I believe this woman, Dr. Ford. Yeah, Carl, I completely agree. Do you think he drank before the hearing? I have no way of knowing that. I think he wished he had, judging from his language. The women named hundreds of things they do. Heather Hine was a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast. Did have an interesting 10 minutes about Me Too, worth watching. She's an evolutionary biologist by training, and that is an interesting viewpoint. Okay, I'll check that out. The point I'm trying to make is that there's a legitimate reason for the legal system as we have it set up. There's a reason why we have innocent until proven guilty. There's a reason why we have you're guaranteed a defense lawyer if you can't afford one. All those things are meaningful and continue to have meaning. When it comes to a job interview, all bets are off. Like I said before, you couldn't get, if you behaved like Brett Kavanaugh, you couldn't get a job as the next person on the People's Court, as the next host of the People's Court. So, yeah. Asia and Anthony and Terry Crews too. I don't know quite what the relation in that sentence is. So, he was a dry drunk at the hearing. That's hard to say. I mean, again, I don't know what his current drinking habits are like. I do know he's awkwardly supportive of the idea of drinking, and I also think that he was playing to, not just, because it wasn't to Trump when he said that, but I think there was an element of like down-home brosy behavior, where he was like, almost a less a Trump strategy than a George W. Bush strategy, if that makes sense. Your caveats to the believe women phrase how. I see. Gotcha. Okay. It's a terrible job interview for sure. Absolutely. I think it was funny that was the one area where Lindsey Graham was like, do you think of this as a job interview? And he was like, yeah, that's what it is. There's another part to that, Hal. There always is, Julie. What would you be referring to? Yeah, another of his lies when he said he was of legal age drinking that changed that year before. That's right. Yeah, he was never of legal drinking age when he was doing it. And again, I don't believe that underage drinking is a disqualifier, especially these days, from any kind of job based on your moral behavior as an adult. lying about it is. You know, are we really ready to go back to I did not inhale? Because that's really what that is. This is his I had a weak stomach. I wasn't Ralphing because I drank too much. I was Ralphing because I you know, because I had a weak stomach and it was spicy food, right? That garbage. And lying about it is why they impeached Clinton. Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, these are the same linguistical parsings that they hated Clinton for. Because although you were more physically powerful, he had a much more intangible position of financial power. I didn't see what that was related to. Let's see. Kavanaugh's calendar backs up Dr. Ford's testimony. How ironic, since Kavanaugh's presented that calendar as supposed evidence to defend himself. Yeah. I don't think he's thinking it through. And I think it was weird by, you know, the main failing part of his argument was his creating these false assertions that were not based in evidence or in circumstance at all. We only partied on weekends, and I was gone all those weekends, so we never drank during the week. Well, that wasn't supported by anybody else involved, and of course they had it at, you know, weekday parties. So, like, there was never any assertion from anyone else that the parties only happened on weekends. That was just that he made that up out of whole cloth. More irony, those who side with Kavanaugh would have also been pro-prohibition. Maybe. My understanding is that a common instruction to jurors is that if a witness lies about any single thing, the jury can discredit everything they testify about. Yeah, that was the quote, the Latin that I think that Durbin, was it Durbin that came up with that? Kavanaugh's friend Judge was apparently battled cancer, if the story's correct. Maybe cancer caused by his alcohol abuse, since alcohol causes cancer. You know, again, those are things we don't even know. But again, first of all, just because you've had cancer doesn't mean you're a liar or that you tell the truth. It is immaterial. And as a judge, he of all people should know that. That, in essence, is just goofy as a primary thought. Secondarily, the idea that he was an alcoholic at any given point. There are alcoholics who are liars to this day. And there are alcoholics who would never tell a lie again because as part of their recovery, they take that part very seriously. Not a lie of measure, anyways. They may not be having a fine day and say, I'm fine to people, is what I'm saying. Both of the factors that are supposed to be exculpatory as far as Mike Judge, why he can't testify, why he's not the person that, why either we shouldn't take what he says seriously or why we should, or why he, of all people, shouldn't be in a situation where he has to testify, is absurd and insulting to people, to cancer survivors and alcoholics everywhere, who are absolutely capable of having jobs and living. Terry Crews was once sexually felt up by a guy at a Hollywood party who was supposedly a powerful producer, so Terry carried it. Yes, I'm aware of that. We've talked about that. We talked about that when I talked about my experience during Queer as Folk when we were doing press stuff. And being told by a publicist that if I complained about being groped at any of these things, that I would be seen as homophobic, and therefore I should keep it to myself. And I did. Until this year, when I talked about it for the first time. No, we all drank wine at home when I was a kid. That often is one of the ways where people don't end up alcoholics. It's like, it's one of the the things they talk about along those lines is, like, there's less alcoholism in France, for example, because people grow up drinking wine and it's a more normal part of it, and they don't create it as this excessive, this thing to seek after, as a release after, you become, or a sign that you're older. Stephanie had permission to grope me. That didn't bother me. um, the same thing applies to art of a sexual nature. Nude statues, nude pictures in the home. People who have those tend to have less sexual violence in the home. More sexual violence happens in places where no nudity is in the home at all time. Is ever allowed. As long as I can still get a hug from you, Hal, I promise not to grab it. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. Of course, you get a hug. Of course. Our prohibition on alcohol here is partially what leads people to excessively drink. Yeah, I think it's a factor, but I also think we need an age limit. That's a social management issue. And again, that's why social justice isn't a thing. There's justice, which is a material thing that you can measure, and then there's social interaction, which is messy and involves engagement and depth and wisdom and character, and those take time, and you can't legislate them. And that applies to alcohol and drug use too. Families have to deal with, friends have to deal with excessive drinking and all those other things, because the law can only go so far without becoming 100% draconian. Despite all the kidding, Stephanie has come up at Sexy Liberal twice and hugged my wife and I in the audience. I never groped her or anyone. Yeah. I called it the meet and grope. Sort of in relation to what I was talking about before. Forbidden fruit syndrome. Yeah. Yes, the freight elevator mechanism is on fire, so no. Oh, so no freight elevator mechanism is on fire, so no freight elevator sucks, but also okay. I'm that related. Yes, sexual repression leads to sexual aggression. Can I sign up for a hug? Yes, you may. I'm a big fan of hugging. My mom is a violent alcoholic, and I haven't spoken to her in 15 years. Wow, that's rough. But you gotta understand, there's a factor in this. Again, social interactions, social issues. This is the murkiness of adulthood and being grown-ups and all this kind of stuff. And again, that's why I think that Kavanaugh's whole BS about being that he was a choir boy in school and lying about it is the unnecessary lie of the entire circumstance, which speaks to two things. One is that he is a fundamentally deceptive human being. He is not being truthful. And secondly, that he is not intellectually capable of addressing an issue except from a head-on or an inverted perspective. Like, he has two directions, forward and backward. He does not understand. He cannot compartmentalize ideas in enough of a way that he amounts to the type of intellect you want on the Supreme Court. Who's the incel that's in the group? I had my first proper drink at 14. It was pink champagne to celebrate me winning a horse riding competition. He was trying to paint a picture of a normal, good old American boy. Yeah, I agree. Okay, everything in moderation and everything can be harmful if done to excess. This is true. I'm trying to. Oh, man. We're okay in this house. We run around naked all the time. Oh, I see. It's called comprehensive inclusive sex ed. I agree. Yes, it's true, Carl. I did feel up your scapula. And you have a very nice scapula. Just saying. It's scapularific. I'm from Brazil, and I was a big fan of lab rats. Oh, well, thanks, Lucas. I love Brazil as well. I would love to get down there someday. Amos, look at any of those old paintings, naked women, same thing. There you have it. Well, I mean, look at John Ashcroft and his weirdness, and him having to cover up the nude statue of Lady Liberty, the exposed breast of Lady Liberty. More nudity, less guns in America. Yeah, it's interesting that I think Unfortunately, we are easier with violence in this country than we are with sex, and I think that's very telling. And I think our biggest maturing, the act of maturation that we're going through right now is correcting that fact that you can kill someone on like the deaths on CSI are incredibly graphic, but the but sexual and romantic behavior is not. That's a problem. Last time I had any alcohol was my mother's Christmas cake. I can't remember the last time I actually drank an alcohol drink, but I started at 14 with champagne. But that, yeah, it oftentimes it's like, oh yeah, no big deal. I think they have more sex and less nudity in the media. How do you have more sex and less nudity? What? I'll try not to touch your scapula Thursday. Oh, thank you, Can't Stop Lying. I appreciate it. Or were you talking to Carl? Hollywood's rating board will ding movies more for nudity than violence as an example. Oh, absolutely. More sex and less violence. Wow, 2 corrections today. I'm sorry. I see. Yeah. I see. Good. I'm glad. Good. Okay. I'm glad that's straightened out, Carrie. My ancestors used to walk around naked before clothed people came, so I'm all for nudity. Yeah. Oh, believe me, I'm for clothing. I think it's very helpful for getting about your day. And it's because the naked person is distracting hormonally to people who are in the mood. And we all have to get on with our lives. So walking around naked isn't helpful. And some level of like normative dress is helpful. It doesn't mean people can't control themselves. It's because there's a natural sexual, impetus in people, and not in creating an environment where you can skip past it and get on with what you're doing is helpful, I think. See, I know whole family are practicing nudists. Yeah, I can't do that. That's silly. Summer's like, she doesn't care, and I think it's funny, but I need like shoes on in the house. How could, and maybe it's been living in an earthquake zone for 30 years. How could you do the show in the nude personally in America? Yes, I could. I couldn't stand up in front of the camera though. I could be nude the whole time. You just wouldn't know. You don't even know if I'm wearing pants, to be completely frank. I'm gonna have to come down the side of clothes. Yeah, they only do this in the privacy of their own home. Well, thank God. My faith teaches us that humans are worthy of clothing. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. You guys couldn't handle me lifting my shirt, much less taking it off, Julie. They have living conditions there, and they have living conditions there in the castle. Also, we don't have fall weather here. We have autumn. Yes, you do not, John. This is basically like the ocean is halfway in. The air is half ocean here. You can like I need a snorkel just to walk around. I wear mostly tank tops and comfy shorts or pants, no shoes or socks. No, yeah. I don't know. At the house in Vegas, we don't wear shoes. Summer's against shoes in the house, and I'm still adapting. It's a funny ass show. I love how. Thanks. It gets the after show gets a lot more relaxed. I will say. Um, Not true. Public bathroom. I walk barefoot outside. Cancel Kavanaugh.com. Yeah, I still think Brat Kavanaugh should be a hashtag. Can we just all start doing that one? Hold on, I'm gonna bring up Twitter real quick, and well, yeah, I'll do it on my iPad. Uh, yeah, so there we go. um, Betty Bowers tweeting, people who claim Brett Kavanaugh is the victim are part of a cover-up. Woof. And it's got pictures of the GOP holding down Lady Liberty and putting their hand over her mouth. That's rough. Whoa. Um, yeah. So, yeah. um, probably go through the next few weeks we speak. Okay, so I tweeted out that thing about the Republicans could be using Kavanaugh as a distraction to slingshot a different nominee through the process that is far more conservative. If they pulled the money and put someone else forward, that person would be there. Somebody wrote, yep, they're probably going through their next favorite pick as we speak, especially considering the documents they refused to let the Dems see. Yeah, that stuff's going to come out. I think probably Monday there's going to be an insistence, um, you know, that they cover that part. So yeah, so I no, thanks guys for retweeting that because I think that's the biggest issue with him because he's a brat. Like he comes across as just whiny, petulant, entitled, snide, dismissive. Yeah. Any dude with their shirt off does nothing for me. Gay women yawn, put his shirt on, lol. Uh, well, maybe we have our shirt off and we're not trying to do something for you. Like, suddenly I'm in the female position or whatever. Maybe I have my shirt off because my shirt needs to be off. What? What? So, let's see. Love the Sam Jackson. Oh my god, that was so funny. So, do you see Brat's smug grin? I noticed it several. Oh, it's gross. My favorite part, I mean, it was hard to pick out my favorite part of that, but my favorite part was when they go, when he was talking to Feinstein, and she goes, "Would you like to?" He goes, "That whole Sweatnik thing is a farce." So and she's like, "Would you like to say more about that?" No, like just the most pitiful, petulant, childish. No, you can still appreciate. Ah, thanks. I I've upped my ab game lately, and I'm having a hard time keeping it under wraps because I'm getting so proud of it. But I'm waiting for a bigger reveal, probably a month from now. Um, so consider yourself warned. uh, yeah, sorry. The beep 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 thing is the building's alarm thing or whatever. Yeah, I will warn you. Yeah, it'll be a separate video. Give the actions of Mitch McConnell and the Gorsuch 2016 is very hypocritical. The Republicans be outraged over this reach. I agree. I'm going from a one pack to a yeah. Well, I was all the best I ever had was a 4 pack up till now because I'm not tall enough to have a 6 pack, or at least I didn't think I was. But now, yeah. Okay. I got my coffee. Thank you very much. I'll put your abs on an alert. Yeah, yeah. There should be a Google alert for my abs, right? Yeah, we were talking justifiable. We were talking about the Pulp Fiction mashup. Oh my God, look at the big brain on Brad. That should help get to the 10K subscribers. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe that's what I need to do to get myself over the line. I do have to do shorter videos, and there definitely is an argument for that. I'm going to be reshooting the goals video soon, probably, very possibly tomorrow, when I'm in, uh, yeah, when I fly back to Vegas. So, how would you suggest my lower back and sciatica? Working your lower back. Back is one of those things you need to exercise. You need to do like back bends, help a little bit of a little bit of weight or whatever. But I mean, don't sit so much. Make sure you're moving, stretch, work on your flexibility. That's always good. Plenty of water. Don't pinch your nerves. Water intake will help a lot because that cushions everything. You need more water in your system. I mean, just yeah. Need a prettier setting than today. Oh boy, do I. Yeah. Although it looks like I'm working. Look at all the paperwork up there. Abs important huge for the back. Absolutely. Yeah. But getting them is hard. You know what my trick is lately? And this is good. I'm doing a bunch of different ab exercises, but you know what the one that you can always count on is if you are doing sit-ups, if you're doing crunches especially, and crunches are way important, put a pillow under your back. Put a small pillow under your back. It gives you more extension in your back, and it eases it when you're sitting up and helps your lower back. Yeah, forward bends are very good. But if you're building your abs and you're doing sit-ups, sit on, have a like when your back is flat on the floor, it can be a bit rough if you're sitting up against it because it makes your back arch up for a lot of people, and you do this and you hinge at the hips. So if you put a pillow there, you'll your back will relax over the pillow, and then the crunches will have more of an effect on your abs there. So that makes sense. If you do back exercise with machines, use it very, very lightweight. This is true. Until it's strong. But yeah, pillows are the unsung heroes of life, right? Or like horoscope and tarot videos. I get views and subscribers. Good point. All right. I'll read my horoscope every day and see what it says, and see how it works out. Yesterday's horoscope was this, and this is what happened. Good foam mattress on an adjustable bed is a sanity saver for me. Had a bad back. Okay. Same reason to put your hands under your butt when doing leg crunches. Yeah, and leg lifts. If you ever lift your legs up and do like the lifting, this where you lift your butt up off the ground. If you put your hands under your waist. Oh, read yours. That's a good idea. We'll do a chat like, hey, I'm gonna read everybody's horoscope today. Every so often, like once a week. People like to hear about themselves. It's so true. Maybe it's time for California to have Kevin De Leon as their next senator. He's 51. No. I'm sorry. I'm not willing to swap out one of the women in office who's been good for a dude at this point, especially this year when there's no reason to do it. Gemini first. We hate to be last. Camden's a Gemini, absolutely. Well, yeah. Why, how? Because it's ageist to think that Dianne Feinstein doesn't deserve to be in office because she's older than him. It's sexist to believe that she needs to be removed and replaced with somebody else. Basically because even if you disagree with her opinions, she is a female Democratic voice who is honest in what she believes. You may not agree with everything she does, but she's not faking it. She'll be 91 at the end of next term, though. I worry about that. Then Strom Thurmond was like 190. I don't care. She's still wise and aware. If she starts to slip, she will step down. She has not. End of story. And I like Dianne. Yeah, no, I'm not willing to swap out any of the women who are in office for men currently, and not just because of the for gender reasons, but also because I think there's a tremendous amount of ageism going on right now, because people are tired of what they think is the status quo without paying attention to what that status quo means. Okay, fair point, Hal, but the House leadership on the Dem side needs to remove Hoyer and Clyburn. Yeah, House leadership, that's fine. Who's in charge of the committees and all that kind of stuff? That's a completely different thing. And there's an argument for somebody besides Pelosi being the Speaker of the House. That being said, I don't mind Nancy Pelosi being Speaker of the House. I like her as a politician. I think she's tough and very smart. You don't have to agree with what everything she does, but at the same time, she is a woman in a seat of power, making the decisions that she is making as a woman. I don't know how the women who are currently in office have somehow lost their woman card in the year of the woman, because there's this idea that only the new ones count. That can't stand. Did you work last night? Yeah, I had a show last night. I have 2 tonight. And my favorite band is Kiss. In case you were to the earlier question, they don't do anything. They don't do anything productive. Pelosi does all their jobs. Yeah, very possibly. I think all the older guys should be grooming younger people for any case not to kick them out, but it makes sense. Well, oftentimes they do. I mean, look at the fact that Kavanaugh and Gorsuch both clerked for Kennedy. That's what does happen. There are tons of women behind all those women that you're seeing in the Judiciary Committee, all of whom are working as staff members and other stuff who may eventually either run for office or help other women run for office because they've had the experience internally. Brad has no legal temperament, apparently. Agreed. I'm glad I'm not the only one who wanted to know what it says above the door and what those fancy bottles on the shelf are. Okay, so above the door it says, "Whine a bit, you'll feel better." And then schedule on the door. And then what was the other question? Those fancy bottles on the shelf are. Local Italian wine. Yeah. Yes, vote for Sarah Dady and Lauren Underwood. Okay. Right wing has been harassing Pelosi for years. Yeah. There's a woman in power, and here's the thing. And this is something we have to learn. And if you haven't if you haven't read or listened to the audiobook of Everything Trump Touches Dies, which is it Greg Wilson? I'm blitzing on his name all of a sudden. As a book, skip. I've already seen this. Where are we? Listening to audiobooks. Where is it? Because I bought it as the audiobook because I've been traveling so much. Rick Wilson, thank you. Yeah, Rick Wilson's Everything Trump Touches Dies. He talks about how, as a Republican operative for years, he was able to beat Democrats. And one of the things is the Karl Rove playbook of make your weakness a strength, make their strength a weakness. So what they do is they attempt regularly through constant chipping away, they attempt to turn you on the women and minorities that you have in power, and make them feel like these are weaknesses that you got to replace. And in the process of replacing them, you'll replace them with new people who do not have seniority, will not get on the committees, and will guarantee them, to go to the back of the line. So what the strategy is, and this is why Brett Kavanaugh is something that you do, why that works as a strategy. It's the exact thing. Take one of their strengths and make it a weakness. That they think this guy's being tough, call him a brat. Make him, make it apparent that he's bratty, and that's representative of their behavior. They do this with Pelosi. They did this with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They did this with, they're doing it with, Tom Perez. They do it with any minority or any member or any woman who's in office. They will chip away at their validity and try to make the base of the Democratic Party either turn on them or get embarrassed by them so that they can. Yes, Donna Brazile is another great example. Absolutely. These, this is a strategy that works. They've done this many, many times. And so people start, look at how they chipped away at Obama's presidency the entire time he was in there, so that by the time he left, most liberals were willing to piss away his legacy. It's a strategy, and it works. And if you bought it, you need to know that. It also, you can invert it. Everything that they view as a strength, and this is what, by the way, the left attempts to do this with old white man. That's what the old white man thing is. They view it as a strength amongst themselves, turn it into a weakness. They think their leadership is strong. We see it as uniform and and without variance. That they are simply a hydra with Trump's head and Lindsey Graham's head and Jeff Sessions' head, and that and basically the same beast, right? Fox News said the name Obama 7 times a minute at least. Yeah, with the ideas that, and the point was to make you as a Democrat or a liberal soft on his legacy, soft on his presidency, and it worked. They did the same thing with Hillary Clinton. We had the first qualified woman to win the primary and become the presidential candidate. She won the popular vote, but she lost the Electoral College because they used this strategy and it worked. because the liberals will buy into this, and we are easily embarrassed because of our we have a much likability is more important to us. Inclusivity is important to us. And in the process of legislation, in the process of doing politics, some people will get excluded in turn at all times. Somebody's going to be on the outs of every decision, if especially if they're more hardline. Right-wing Christians are out of the circle when it comes to a woman's right to choose on a federal level. That's why they keep trying to get in on the state. Women will be out of that decision state to state because they've handed over that decision-making process to a group of men or evangelicals who believe the opposite. This constant give and take will exclude somebody. Yeah, we're the Family Values Party, and Hillary is horrible for not leaving Bill. Exactly. Oh, the 80s, I caught the tail line. When they go low, Dems must kick these beasts when they're down. They're not good people, at least not at all. At least of all patriotic. Trump went to North Carolina from the Florence hurricane floods. Right. 6s. Capaldi was more like the really old doctors when I was a kid. I liked him. The character destruction is a tactic that's been used since the dawn of civilization. No question, but it isn't that they do it abstractly. They do it specifically. And they do it on the women and minorities in the Democratic Party who are coming up. Watch for them to specifically attack these people more so than they do the men and the Caucasians in the Democratic Party. And it's not because they have less disdain, but the way they're doing it is that they want you to have disdain for those individuals so that they can make a categorical comparison, going, well, they got voted out. They couldn't even stay in for one term. The minute they said the wrong thing, you can't be black and believe this. You can't believe a woman and get off the reservation, or the Democrats will kick you to the curb. Never mind the fact that, by the way, the Tea Party crowd does that entirely to Republicans constantly. That's not the point. The point is what they're selling to you and whether or not you buy it. And that's a big part of it. Great book called It's Time to Fight Dirty, How Dems Can Build a Lasting Majority by David Ferris. I'm for it. I'll look it up. When they go low, they're looking up your skirt. Yeah. Capaldi was not getting good enough scripts for the style he was working in. I'm not quite sure what. Oh, we're talking about the doctor now. That's a whole different conversation. All right. Fox keeps a camera on the ground to look up the anchor woman's skirts. That's so creepy. Like just Fox and Friends in and of itself is so gross. So they have the woman sit in a short skirt in the middle of the two dudes. That in of itself looks like, no wonder they're for Kavanaugh. That's the Kavanaugh and Mark Judge show. Think Kavanaugh is suicidal? No, I don't believe he is suicidal. I hope not. Because again, I think this guy could clear his name just by being honest. I think this guy could come back and, from this and go, I learned a valuable lesson. I tried to cover out of embarrassment behavior that I was ashamed of, and I've learned my lesson. You cannot. And women must be listened to. And I don't remember. I denied these things because I don't remember doing them. But, regardless, like he could come back from this. There is a way. But it requires a strength of character I just don't know that he has. I don't know, how do you know the Brazilian politician Jair Bolsonaro? I do not. Very much looking forward to Jodie Whittaker as the doctor. All right. Kavanaugh has been dialed in for decades. He'll be fine. Yeah. He'll end up with his own. He'll be the next Judge Napolitano. He'll get paid better and have a longer gig. Fox News is sexual harasser's playground. Kavanaugh may not have the strength of character, but he might make a good character actor. Certainly bring up the tears on cue. The brat could come clean and keep his current job. SCOTUS appointment is not what we need as a country. No, I agree. Brazil is potentially poised to have a sexist pig as their leader. Have you tried home-filtered water? I have a filtration system at my house, yeah. We need more facts. That's always true. I think that could be a t-shirt. I'm not taking sides yet. We need more facts. All right. That's fine. The problem heretofore has not been whether or not the facts are allowed or there or any of that stuff. The problem has been, and I have to leave in a couple minutes just because they're going to need to get into this office. The problem has been the Republicans' reticence to allow testimony or facts to be entered into evidence. The fact is that I love House Sparks. I could also be a teacher. I agree. I'd like to install a reverse osmosis system, but my wife objects to how much space it would take up under the sink. You put it in the garage and run it into your whole system, or wherever your main line comes in. Where even are you, Hal? I'm in Port Charlotte, Florida. I got 2 shows tonight at Visani's, which is a place called Comedy Zone, and I'm working on my new show, so I'm working out. I'm on the road, and I'm in Vegas next week. 2 shows a night, 4 nights. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, Doctor Who. The fact that there's a woman playing the character is sort of immaterial since the Doctor Who is not a male. He's a Time Lord and he's not human. So whatever. Thanks for the tip. I'll look into it. Yeah, you can put the systems on your entire thing. There's usually a point to hook up in most people's newer homes. I got my home filtered through my kitchen sink. There you go. I guess Steph is not a real drunk. No comment from Twitter. The number of people helped by National Sexual Assault Hotline was 201% above average yesterday. Well, yeah. Number of people calling into it because they were feeling re-victimized or they finally have a voice. Absolutely. Or they're just tired of not having a voice. They're going to burst in here in a second and need to use this office, so I'm signing off, kids. You guys are awesome.